Devon is from Vancouver, Canada. Please welcome Devon.
Right on, okay. First of all, I just want to say how amazing it is to be at this this weekend with you guys and just being out in the woods, and it's exactly what I needed. It's camp for adults. I'm into it. Everyone's telling their stories, and I think that's a really important part of how we learn, is seeing what people's stories are and then being able to take from that and reflect on what our story is and then understand how we can make an impact. So let me tell you guys my story. Growing up, I moved around a lot. As a kid, I was, my backstory, my parents, both hippies, divorced when I was 2. Dad moved back to England, and my mom still wanted to travel, so I was her little travel buddy. And every year I was in a new school, literally every single year. So I had to force myself to become a good socializer. I had to be able to get into situations, connect with people, make an impact within a couple weeks, or I'd find myself kind of stuck alone in a new school. And so I became very effective. I became so good that I could walk into a school and I could just see how everything worked, and I could just find my way in. In grade 10, I went to Columbine High School. And I wasn't there for the incident, so I didn't know at the time how impactful that time was going to be. But when I graduated university, or actually I was in university when the incident happened, and I was overwhelmed and scared and a little pissed off and felt powerless. I didn't know what to do with that information. I just knew something was wrong with the way we were interacting with people and treating people. It wasn't until I graduated university that the real test for me came. I was diagnosed with skin cancer. And I had a piece of cancer about as big as the flat part of my thumb there, right on my face. And I had to go through some pretty major surgery. I have a scar that runs down the side of my face here. And I went into a depression. I became a recluse. I grew up my beard, and I always wore a hat and sunglasses, and I separated myself from the world, and I wouldn't let people in. And that lasted about 8 months until I found the strength. I was at a conference a couple years ago, and someone was talking about the bounce back. Everyone's going to fall, but the question is, are you able to bounce back higher than you were? And I realized through this journey of having the cancer at 23, which is not what you expect to hear when you graduate university. Welcome to the real world, kid. Get out there. I realized this was an opportunity. So I started doing research, and I started watching people, and I was very fortunate to have a circle of friends that were supportive of me. And I started coming out of my shell, and I started watching how people interacted, and I saw trends. And then I started looking at cognitive behavior therapy and evolutionary psychology and neuroscience, and I saw that there was a mass of information out there about how people interact and how they engage each other, and that there was a lot of opportunity to grow. If we take time and we witness ourselves, we can grow. So I went on this journey, and I slowly worked my way out of this place that I found myself. And I got better and better and better until I got such good results that I was actually interacting more effectively than I had been before, because before I was a natural. Does anyone have a friend, or is anyone here a natural, and they can just walk into a room and they just connect with people? Does anyone have a friend who's like that? Yeah? And then you ask them, how'd you do that? Like, yeah, you're just so natural. You just walked in, and they're like, just be yourself. Just be confident. And you're like, what? Those two things don't fit right now. Before I was a natural, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing it. It wasn't until I lost it and I had to relearn it that I realized it was a learnable and thus teachable skill. So I started teaching people, and I started helping people who found themselves stuck in that same place, found people who were feeling lost and feeling disconnected from people and felt like they couldn't, make new friends, especially people who move cities a lot. How do you connect with people when you're new to a city? Crazy thing happened is I started getting better results with the people that I worked with than I got through my own journey. People that I worked with were actually seeing more amazing results than I had. And I realized this was something much bigger than me, and much bigger than kind of taking care of myself. This was something that needed to be shared with the world. I started the business Social Fluency about 4 years ago. And at the time, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just kind of like, this is what I'm good at, so I'm going to do this, and it's fun, and it's helping people. But now what I'm seeing is there's a trend. And the new trend is devices. It's these little things that walk around with us all the time, these little robots that we keep in our pocket, little spirit animals. Not quite. If you think about, from a technological standpoint, if you think about the Arrowhead. The Arrowhead, the oldest Arrowhead, they've recently dated back to 64,000 years ago. And at the time, that was a pretty impressive piece of technology, right? That's essentially a knife. And that weaponized us in a new way as a species. Suddenly, we were able to hunt in a more effective way. Suddenly, we were able to, with a well-aimed strike, we could take down a giant animal. That changed the whole dynamic of how we evolved. And the evolution of technology going from that 64,000 years ago, that amazing piece of technology, over into the technology we experience today, which is this cell phone, that took us a long time. That took a long time for us to get to that point. What makes an arrowhead so effective, the arrowhead is an important part, granted, but what makes it so effective are the feathers at the end of the arrowhead. They're attached to a piece of wood or a branch that has to be straight and true, and then you have this soft feather, and the feather allows the person who's controlling it to direct where it goes. I would say that our new technology, our cell phones, are missing the feathers. And we need to be the feathers. Our human soft skill experience needs to be the feathers. And this is no more true than it is with the children. For us, these things are fun and they're kind of new and we're like, oh, this is cool, I can connect with people. But for the kids, it's all they've ever known. It's all they've ever known. And we're passing down to the next generation this addiction. We're creating crackberry babies. Because they don't know anything else. That's all they know. They assume it's better just to send a text than to call someone, or to send an email rather than going up and meeting with someone. Friend them on Facebook rather than meeting up and becoming friends. I feel that in the next several years, we're going to be seeing a social communication epidemic. We're going to be seeing some trends in the behaviors of children as they grow up that's going to be frightening to us. Because there is a big issue when you remove the human element of interactions. The new DSM-5 is coming out, and it's the diagnostic and statistical manual for the medical world and managing what everything means. And there's a new disorder in there called the social communication disorder. And they are now seeing that children are interacting in a different way. Their brains are changing. We're watching people's brains change in the course of a generation. That is a big deal. If we've evolved over these last several million years to this point, and then within 1 or 2 generations we go into a completely different direction. This is a big deal. So what can we do about it? I don't want to just come and get everyone down. There's a lot we can do about it. It comes down to education, obviously. It comes down to habits. So, first of all, we need to engage schools. We need to make social skills education a part of curriculum. We need to make it important that it's not just something like, going to school is really about socializing yourself. You send kids to school so they can get to know other kids and become socialized. Awesome. But if it's not guided, then they might be learning some pretty bad habits. So, in school, we need to be starting to teach social skills. It's necessary. But in our homes, we need to be teaching social skills as well. We need to create a nest. We need to create a place where the children can come home and feel like they can be safe to try things out, safe to expand out of their comfort zone. Someone earlier was saying, I think it was UT, that's saying, you have to get out of your comfort zone. Necessary. That's the only way we grow. But if you're not getting out of your comfort zone in a controlled, specific, guided way, that's how people drown. It's called flooding. It becomes too much, they get overwhelmed, and they never want to do it again. It's like kicking a kid into the deep end of the pool rather than slowly easing them in. So we need to hit them at school, we need to hit them at home. And then we need to hit ourselves. And where do we spend most of our time during the day? We spend it at work. So we need to create workplaces that are not dependent on email, dependent on text messages. We need to get up, walk across the way, and connect with someone about what we need to get done. And then sure, I'll send a follow-up email and say, this is what we agreed to, awesome. Hope you have a great weekend. What you were talking about sounds awesome. That is how you create connections. That's how you do it. You do it slowly over time, and you build up. And you do it by being with a person, truly being with them, present. I'm not saying I don't like the internet, and I'm not saying I don't love Facebook. I'm on it all the time. And I was just at a workshop about goals and stuff, and I was like, how am I going to organize my email so that I'm not spending all my time on my email? So I'm just as guilty as everyone else, but I'm making an effort, I'm making a conscious effort to connect with people in the real world. And I like to think of it, as the difference between snorkeling and scuba diving. Has anyone done snorkeling in here? Yeah, anyone done scuba diving? Couple? Okay, great. Snorkeling is fun, and the kids can do it, and we get out there and we bump around into a bunch of people in the bay and see some fish, and that's fun. And if we ever get uncomfortable, we can just get up and kind of walk out of the water and go grab a sandwich and sit on the beach. So it's fun, but it's kind of shallow. So that's social networking. It's broad, it's shallow, and it's fun. But if you go do scuba, it requires some training, requires some equipment. You got to be, wearing the right gear. You're not going to be doing very well. But man, when you get out to the dive site, you can go deep. You can see sharks. You can see giant manta rays at night. That's where magic happens. Magic happens in the real connections that we experience. It doesn't happen when I see an old friend on Facebook. That's like interesting. When I run into an old friend at a coffee shop, that's amazing. So we have to live in the present. We have to live in the real world because Second Life needs to remain Second Life. There's 7 skills that you can learn, and if you learn these 7 skills, things start becoming a lot easier for you. 1, you have to learn body language. You have to understand what your body language is communicating to people and what other people's body language is communicating to you. And then be able to calibrate your body language based on what they're putting out. You need to have conversational agility, meaning you need to be able to manage a conversation. You need to be able to move deep in a direction with the conversation. You need to be able to pull the brakes on a conversation. You need to be able to start a conversation with a stranger. You need to be funny. That is one of the most powerful tools to build a connection with a new friend, is to laugh together. As humans, you can think of humor as, it's a genetic fitness indicator, is essentially what it is. It could be likened to antlers on a deer. It shows to other people that is a healthy deer. That is a deer that I should hang out with. Whatever your intentions are with that deer, that's your deal. But humor, because our evolution, our brains have been the determining factor that allows us to be as evolved as we are, our wit is that tool. Our wit is the thing that shows people that we're a good person to add to your tribe because we have good genes. So being able to be funny in the right kind of way is a powerful, powerful, powerful skill, and it's totally learnable. Like everything, it's learnable. It's not born into you. If you practice anything, you can get better at it, and you can hone that skill. Another important skill for life is assertiveness. Different from aggressiveness, unfortunately named because everyone thinks that assertive and aggressive are the same thing. They're not. You have passive, which is going with the flow, doing what anyone wants you to do. Yeah, sure, that's fine with me, yeah. You have aggressive, which is forcing it your way or the highway. So here you're trying to control people's opinions of you, make them think that you are a nice person, invite you out, let's hang out. And on this side, you have a person, you're trying to control their actions. And then in the middle, you have passive-aggressive, the hideous love child. That's where you're trying to control their opinions of you while also controlling their behaviors. And then those all live on the same spectrum. That's controlling people, controlling their opinions, controlling their actions, controlling both. Assertiveness lives up here, comes from a completely different place. Assertiveness stands from the mindset of, I'm responsible for my own behaviors and my own opinions, and other people are responsible for theirs. I can't control you. You can't control me. All I can do is live the life I want to live, and if it is in conflict with the life you want to live, then let's have a talk about it and see what we can work out. Assertiveness, I think, is the key to a happy, stress-free life. If you can integrate assertiveness into your life, you will be happier. Your relationships will be stronger. You will feel more engaged with the community, and you will feel that you are living in integrity. Another skill you need to have is magnetism. If you want to get anything done in this world, you need to have a magnetic, charismatic energy. And that can be taught. All of this stuff can be taught. It's just a matter of how you change your behaviors to adopt what people need to hear to kind of get your point. A good communicator doesn't just make people understand what they're saying by pounding it in. They adapt their communication line so that the person they're speaking to can receive it. So a truly charismatic person can shift and adapt in the situation. You need to learn, is that 5? Okay. You need to learn how to approach new people. You need to learn how to bridge that initial gap, because that first part is scary. Am I right? The first time you see someone and you want to walk over and talk to them, how scary is that? You start trembling. It's built into us evolutionarily. If you're living in a tribe of 200 people and you go approach someone and they say, "Get away from me, freak," then you're going to be like, oh, now everyone in the tribe knows that that person just denied me, and now my status in the tribe goes down. And obviously we live in a giant tribe when that stuff doesn't really apply anymore, but it still applies in our minds. We're not maybe aware of it, but it's still affecting all of our decisions. And then the last skill, it's a kind of a bigger picture thing. And it's the skill, we call it mental pattern shifting. And it's the skill of being able to recognize that your thoughts and your beliefs about reality are not necessarily based in reality. They're based on your perception of reality, which is usually wrong, by the way. How could all of us be right about all of our wacky perceptions of reality? It's just not possible. So we're building these sandcastles, and we think that they're real, and we treat them like they're real, but if we just get in there and push them down, we realize that it's not that big of a deal. We can bridge that gap. So those are the 7 skills that we believe at Social Fluency, if you can master those skills, you can create a fulfilled life of connecting with people in the real world. And here's the thing. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it. Your social skills need to be constantly exercised. It's a muscle. So if you're not out there connecting with people, if you spend all day in front of the computer, it's very easy to get in the habit of lowering your eyes when you run into someone. This is a very fragile time in our evolution. It's a very exciting time in our evolution. If we do the next 100 years right, this could be, we could go in 2 different directions. I feel that if we don't consciously make social skills an embedded part in every element of our lives, the next generation's going to be in for some serious uphill battles. I hope you guys can join me in exercising those skills. We already did something this morning, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm doing another one tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., and we'll be doing it right downstairs from here. And if you guys can wake up that early, I feel like that's a really strong way to end our time at Bonfire Heights. Really, let's make the most of tomorrow morning and get a big push out of it. Thank you guys very much. Thank you, Darius.